patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers and translating science into clinical practice. You have all of your materials in the board packet, and so we welcome everyone to our board meeting. This is an opportunity in terms of our conflict of interest policy for each member to disclose potential conflicts and their belief that they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from the matter. Is there, at this time, public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, seeing that there's no public comments, we have minutes from November and minutes from December to approve, so I'll entertain motions on both of those.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Ready for the question. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed, ayes have it. Our minutes have been adopted. Old business will begin with revenue discussions. Bruce Naramore, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just say for revenue discussions today, they were short-circuited by a certain snowstorm last week. We had TDOC and Core Civic sort of scheduled for some updates. We're continuing to make progress in those two regards. Those are both paying customers for the hospital. But we, unfortunately, we got knocked out of that Friday week a week ago for those. So the one thing I would say is, we're getting very close. I'm going to defer to Dr. Brown to just give you guys a brief Bordeaux update. I know I'm skipping a little bit on the schedule there, but that's right on us. We've got a major imaging center and primary and specialty care clinic about to open.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and board members. Bordeaux Clinic, we are at 100% complete on the interior of the clinics. All the equipment, imaging equipment is in. What we're waiting on now is a temporary UNO, and we're expecting to be able to have that tomorrow. Only thing that we had left was the release of the sprinkler drawings to the state. Once we get that temporary UNO, then we will be able to occupy the building. Our anticipated date of seeing first patients is 12 February. And I believe Ms. Pooh has scheduled a grand ribbon cutting on the 14th or 15th of February. Once we move in, then we will have to submit the temporary UNO to the state for the imaging side, and that's expected to take another 2 weeks after we receive it. And then once we get that inspection done, then we have to go to the city to get final approval to open up the imaging center. So that's the update on Bordeaux. Be glad to answer any questions anyone may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, I got choked up. Dr. Webb, you recognized for the relocation updates.
There's really not much to update on at this point. We will be meeting with the mayor next week, board chair and I. So we'll be having that discussion in more details at that time. Should have some more information to report at the next board meeting.
Thank you. Under new business, we'll begin with the quality report. Ms. Imes, you're recognized. She here? All right, we'll move to, absolutely. We'll move to contracts. Kathy Poole, you're recognized now for the first contract.
Good afternoon, members of the board. This is an update to the request for proposal that went out on October 6th. Just as a recap, in June of 2023, we brought forward a contract for marketing and communications, and at the time, the board requested more information in July, and then it was finally determined to have an RFP put out due to the timeline before the previous RFP had been sent out. So if you look at the analysis that I just handed out to you. Previously, we had contracts for communications and PR from 2016. That was the first time we actually put an RFP out for that type of work. And then we did another one in 2018, which continued into the second part for 2021. So with a 2023 contract, at the request of the board, we did the RFP. Within the RFP, we sent out, we put it on our website to ensure it was public. I then personally sent out 15 emails to agencies that we may have done business with in the past or new agencies. I actually went through the Metro website and pulled who are part of their diverse entities that have signed up, so that we reached out to them as well as some of the larger PR firms. I can submit a list if requested. Of the 15, 4 came back with an intent to submit a proposal. And then we actually had a couple of I get emails all the time for people who want to do work with us. So there was an organization out of Knoxville and actually an organization out of New York that had requested I forward them information, and the New York company ended up setting a proposal as well. So we actually received 3 proposals by the deadline time. And of those 3 proposals, we had in the RFP, it laid out how we would score them. So within the scoring process, the initial RFP team consisted of myself, the Chief Marketing Officer, Tom Cooper, who's Director of Procurement, and Susanna Sells, who is Director of Contracts. So we went through and scored each of them based on project approach, experience and qualifications, and their commitment to diversity. Because they all scored within 10 points of each other, we decided to go ahead and bring them back, all of them, to do a presentation. And so it just wouldn't be the 3 of us. I went ahead and put together a subcommittee that consisted of leaders from our external or some of our arms within Nashville General. So just as a reminder, Nashville General Hospital is the parent organization, or the hospital authority is the parent. Nashville General Hospital. We also have the Nashville Healthcare Center, where we have soon to be 3 locations, 2 right now. That's our ambulatory side. We're also about to open up the Nashville Diagnostic Imaging Center. We then have the NGH School of Health Sciences, which is the oldest radiologic technology school that's hospital-based in Middle Tennessee. So representatives from those areas, as well as a few members from the executive team, then scored them on the presentation. And within the RFP analysis document, you'll see there was the actual 8 points total for presentation, that they're clear about the objectives, aligned with objectives, clear about outcomes, I apologize, company focused and professional, but then also their partnership potential with Nashville General Hospital. After that was completed, the original 3 on the RFP team, myself, Tom Cooper, and Susanna Sells, came back together and opened up the fee schedule. And that's where the biggest differential probably came in. was the fee schedule. So after reviewing and scoring the fee schedule, the final scores for each firm were 106, 101, and 99 out of a total of 120 points. So based on those scores and based on what the RFP selected and the value that any dollars would bring to Nashville General Hospital, we opted to go with Team A, which is Community Health Marketing. So we did present to I presented to the Finance Committee a recommendation to move forward with Community Health Marketing contract. In addition to that information in your packets, I also wanted to do some comparable contracts that I found within Metro government. So you will see the actual contract abstracts that I was able to pull online, as well as one from the Nashville International Airport, being an airport authority, just like we are an authority. So within those, the scope, the pricing, and the terms, I feel that we have in our RFP or contract fall well within what has been approved within other entities of Metro. Also, during the original presentation, during the Finance Committee, Finance Chair Smith had asked about outcomes, and I just make the assumption everybody was here the last time we gave the presentation, and it was in July when we submitted, when I had come back from the original request in June and gave a hospital authority marketing update. And within that update, we provided the objectives and the goals and showed that the goals were met for the previous year. Also, that from a marketing cost to a community hospital, that the average marketing budget is 2.58% of net revenue. And within our organization, the way we are structured, Bruce and I kind of went back and forth on this, and we landed actually on using, I apologize, I don't have my eyes. Operating expenses, and the marketing contract represents 0.7% of our operating expenses here at the hospital. So, as
What was that number again?
0.7%, 0.7% of operating expenses. Whereas the average marketing budget for a community hospital is 2.58% of net revenue. Additionally, in that update back in July, presented numbers that showed that the contract is about a 30% decrease than what we're currently spending, and that we have been decreasing this contract from when I took back over in 2021 from a high of 629,000 to below 500,000. And some of that has been attributed to nobody is happier than me to make this, before I was a one-person show. I had 0.5 that I shared with the foundation, and we have been able to grow our marketing division, which is not just marketing, it's community outreach, it's internal communications, internal branding. So as you hear about all the great things that we're doing within the city, it takes well more than one person to do it. But because we have a team and how we're laying out everything, we feel like we're bringing synergy to the department and going to be able to show our return on investment with this contract. And I do want to apologize because I failed to review the board minutes where I was to have sent this analysis prior to today to the full board. I was stuck on another where if people wanted to view the RFPs, they would be able to come in and board members could view the RFPs. But because of the amount and size, I did not want to just send them out.
Kathy, are there any other metro agencies that have used this marketing firm?
As I do not know.
And this
I would
is
have
not
to
the
go back
firm
and
that-
look.
This is not the firm that we used before, right?
It is.
It is the same firm?
It is the same firm.
Okay.
And that was one of the other firms that actually submitted a proposal, was a partner to this firm previously. So, and then Misha Maynard and Amanda and Jerry had come in a few months ago and gave their presentation on how we had been working together the previous fiscal year. I believe that was in July.
You recognize?
Kathy, I have a couple of questions.
Of course.
How much is your entire marketing budget? I mean, exclusive
My-
of this?
Entire marketing budget is just over 1 million. So salaries, benefits, because in it, I mean, we have functioning within communications, PR, all, you know, I don't want people to get stuck that this is just creative advertising marketing. That's not what the division is about.
As it relates to this particular RFP and the 3 responses, and forgive me, I'm not sure I can walk through this right now,
That's,
but it looks like the final scores were relatively close.
they were.
How much weight was ultimately given to cost to put one over the top versus the other?
In relations to the first set of numbers where we looked at them meeting the scope of the project, it was actually 74, 68, 69. And then the fee schedule was 16, 15, and 11. So they were still relatively close.
Did 74 end up being 106?
Correct.
Okay. I would like to spend a little bit of time with you
Okay.
to understand a little bit more about what the others proposed versus what the winning proposal or the proposed winning proposal.
The proposed winning proposal had more about their cost benefit, truly, because as an organization, as I have the ability to look at the 30,000 foot view of what my peers are doing and where we're going within the organization, and the thought process of we're looking for a new location and where those dollars need to come from eventually, spending that amount right now is not in our best interest when I know we need TVs in the hospital rooms. We've got other things that need to occur within this hospital. So even though they're pie in the sky at 1 point something million, that's just not doable for this team right now.
Totally understand and appreciate and respect the rigor that you went through this, you and your team. I do want to acknowledge that. I also want to suggest, having been a marketing and public affairs consultant, I've clearly been on the wrong side of it with these prices. And I do want to reference something that came up in the finance committee meeting. Dr. Hudson, you raised the point about precedent in reviewing contracts. I would say 2 things. One, the original reason that this contract, a attracted, I think, so much attention because there was no RFP to begin with. So it kind of brought a focus to this particular one. Second, I would suggest as a board member for me, while maybe other board members have not asked in terms of multiple responses to RFPs, I think that's part of my responsibility to ask more questions rather than just say aye or nay. So I don't know that it's a precedent-setting thing, but I will continue to ask questions about multiple that I have some distant, at least, understanding and appreciation for.
May I comment?
Yes.
I appreciate you stating your perspective on that, and at no time did I suggest that we not ask questions or ask for multiple RFPs. As a member of the Finance Committee, since I've been a part of this committee, we review contracts every single month. We've never gone to this step.
Right.
And so for me, it was, what are the optics on this? What makes this special or different?
And I guess part of that is my particular interest and understanding of marketing issues and marketing contracts.
Yeah, and you made that clear in saying that there was not an RFP initially for that, and so I could also understand additional questions, scrutiny, examination, whatever.
Thank you.
This is a lot of money. It's not something that I really anticipated for the hospital to spend this much on marketing. So I guess I'd like to get a little bit more concrete and say, what would be the top 3 true deliverables in the course of a year with a marketing contract like this? Would it be patient volume? Would it be community image?
Patient volume, revenue. It's revenue generating. So when we hear if there's something going on with the emergency room, we have to have the ability to get out there as far as driving people into the ER. New apartments are going up every day. So whether it's a new mover program, that's really where the dollars are spent more so than on this side. And it's that we're doing physician reviews. Most people find their doctors by looking them up on the internet. So we've been working really hard with getting our provider reviews online. So now when you see a doctor within 2 days, you're going to get a ding on your phone that says, please review our provider. So we always look at HCAP scores, and sometimes they just look dismal. But then when I compare them to what's out there on our Google reviews for any one of our providers, they're sitting at 4.9, 5.0. We rarely have low reviews and scores, but there is an image out there that we also have to move past. And it is very hard. And then I, Dr. Miller, understand exactly where you're coming from. When we relocated to this location 26 years ago this week, we put a billboard up and had to call it directional signage because we were a department of Metro. There were no marketing dollars. You did not do advertising. We've gone to Metro Council during budget hearings with full color presentations, getting chastised for having, why are you bringing us full color presentations? But we are a hospital, a community hospital who sees all of Nashville. Not one segment in Nashville, not one side of Nashville. Our primary service areas are right here, Southeast and Madison. We have a 60% insured rate. We have Metro employees that we need to tap into, low-hanging fruit. The location in Bordeaux, there's a lot. There's the fire hall down there. There's 50 Forward. There's companies that we could be recruiting because the more insured we get, the less we have to rely on Metro. But we have to get there. In 2002, the board chair, Dick Ragsdale, submitted an addendum or a resolution on the board to hire our own doctors because we realize primary care is so important to drive revenue to this organization. So those are all the things in 24 years, we're finally hiring our own providers and getting those numbers up and asking these other entities to don't just send us your uninsured. We're here for that, most definitely, because we're here for all of Nashville. But again, this isn't just about TV commercials, digital ads, magazine commercials. This is really about being out in the community. It is elevating who we are in the community. People not Googling Meharry Hospital, and that's no offense to Meharry, but it doesn't get them to us. We're Nashville General. But and really, you've got how many employees here? 600? Who love this organization. And so, and I mean no disrespect, truly. I am bringing a 30% decrease on things we're doing and trying to move this organization forward. And we can approve things over here and over here, but this keeps getting to be a sticking point. And Nashville is a big, small town. Somebody said it earlier. And at some point, it gets personal.
Mr. Chairman, Kathy, I love your passion, I really do, and the passion of all of your colleagues here. As you know, because I've walked through the hospital with you and with Dr. Webb, that's very apparent among the employees here, that there is a great deal of passion for the people we serve here, for each other, and for Nashville and the community at large. Make no mistake, I certainly appreciate that in you and all of your colleagues. We talk about revenue, and I'm going to bring up something I've mentioned before, and forgive me. We have to bring in the revenue, no question. But we also, and you have great programs already in terms of prevention and how we develop more of an understanding that this is an initiative, this location, this building, the people that work here are about making sure that people are healthy, whether they're coming into the hospital for treatment or ways in which we can help them prevent coming into the hospital to be healthy. And so I hope we're not going to only think about prevention, about revenue when we're talking about marketing, but we're talking about how to expand what this hospital has nuggets of exciting programs throughout the community for prevention, which, as I've said before, can generate lots of dollars from fundraising, from grants, from wealthy inhabitants of this community, of which there are many.
Oh, definitely.
And so I hope that will also be a major part of the continuing and ongoing marketing effort. And I think that's part of where I find the interest of the board. It's about policy. I'm not interested in I am interested in understanding, but I'm not interested, and I don't have an interest as a board member in your everyday activities. That's up to you and Dr. Webb and the rest of the team here. But I think it's really important for us to be focused on the marketing effort and assisting you and helping you to the extent we possibly can. That's why I have so many questions, and that's why I would like to take some more time to review what we've been through so I can understand how you came to the conclusion and to support that conclusion at the end of the day.
I appreciate that. Yes, we are.
Dr. Webb, you recognize to respond.
I think one thing that needs to be pointed out is a ratio was presented to you a few minutes ago on industry standard use of marketing resources. I think we're well within that ratio. So as you look at and scrutinize the cost, I think you need to consider, are we outside of an industry standard in the ratio of spend that we have on marketing resources, or are we well within that? And so I think that should set some kind of boundary as to how far we could go, because we could eliminate it down to zero, and maybe that might make you feel better, but it's not going to do much for helping the organization to grow and to expand. So we need to look at industry standards, and I don't think that Nashville General should be treated any differently as it relates to those standards than any other organization. Hospital organization.
So is it possible to get comparisons of other hospitals in the area and how much they spend on their marketing as a comparison?
It is very hard to get other entities to tell you what their total spend is.
I'm sure it's
So
more than this,
It's
though.
more of a cumulative, here's what the average marketing spend is for this. But even when you get into healthcare, they pull in pharmaceuticals and other things that really make that number much larger than what it is.
Smith, you recognize?
I guess what I'm hearing both at the finance committee level and then also through lots of good conversation here at the board level is that the board's just not ready to move forward to request approval. That's what I feel like I'm hearing. It feels like there could be more conversation and or information disseminated for those who might request some other information. And so is it possible to defer this out a month and let those individuals who would like to get more information have the opportunity to reach out to Ms. Poole and feel more comfortable about that going forward?
Yeah, I'm okay with deferring if that's the prerogative of the board. I will say now we've kicked this can down the street a long time, and the administration has done everything we've asked them to do. They've done it in the way that we've asked them to do it. And so we're at this point, and so I mean, we either approve it up or down. But if you need more information and we need to defer it, I would be comfortable with that.
I would move that. We defer.
I will. It's been moved to defer 1 month. Let's get a second. Been moved and properly second. Ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? All right. Looks like we have 2 opposed, and okay. So we will roll it 1 month. But again, I do want to say that we've got to put some value on if we think marketing is important to driving the revenue for this hospital, and whatever that number is and the importance of it, we just got to make a decision. We've got to make a decision, and well, I'll stop right there. Let's go to
Mr. Chairman, let me just say, for my part,
Yes.
marketing is critically important.
Yeah.
I'm not in any way suggesting we shouldn't be doing marketing. I'm suggesting that we understand what the marketing initiative is at a little bit greater depth. And I had asked to preview this before the board meeting. That's why I'm still interested in seeing more details, because I haven't had that chance.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Luston. We will, and your wisdom that you bring to this conversation is very important. I'm talking from a historical standpoint. We've dealt with this particular idea of marketing for about 7 years. And compared to the PSA, it's one of those things that we always just get stuck there, right? And so I don't want us to spend a whole lot more time from the administration standpoint. I mean, they've spent months reviewing. They spent months analyzing. These are people who are very bright, very brilliant. These are the folk that we have charged to do this work. And we don't trust them in this space, then that leads to some other conversations. And so I'm just suggesting that when we come back, get all the information you need, so when we come back next month, we can make a decision. All right. So Nurse Elders, you are recognized for the TLER.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. I'm presenting two separate contracts. For one company, it's Clear Psychiatry. They will service our inpatient and emergency department. It's a telepsychiatry on-demand consult service that our physicians can tap into if they need help with our psychiatric population. Some of you may know or may not know, so I'll inform you. In 2022, we received a letter, and we have not had a psychiatric resource. Meharry used to service that contract, and so since that time, our hospital medicine providers have been managing that population, and we have identified times and circumstances that they need additional help. The contract is for 2 years. It's $3,900 a month. They'll provide us 14 consultations per month in both inpatient and the emergency department. It's under the $50,000 threshold, but I'm here because it is a clinical contract. They currently service Baptist Memorial, Williamson County Medical Center, Cookville Medical Center, Olive Life Point, and Erlanger. They will be credentialed medical staff at our facility. Any questions?
Well, I actually have just one question.
Yes, sir.
With the psychiatric needs of our community, is this enough?
We don't need 24/7. That was one of the questions that came up before, and what I was sharing with Ms. Christie. There's not a psychiatric emergency that our physicians can't handle in crisis. So if we had a behavioral health unit, I think we would be looking at additional resources. We've also hired a LCSW in the ambulatory space, and she's meeting with each individual leader on what our behavioral health needs are, you know, from an everyday standpoint in person. This helps us either after hours or during those times when somebody's not available. And we've tried for the last 2 years to recruit a psychiatrist, and there's just a shortage. And as most of you know, they're very high dollar.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt both of these contracts.
Second.
Been moved and properly second. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Dr. Mark Brown, you're recognized for CMS Imaging.
Yes, this is a contract, 5-year contract for our 128 CT scanner that was installed last year. So the warranty is going out on that piece of equipment. I did go out to bid, but the only bids we got back were people who could not work on this piece of equipment that would charge me a management fee in order to hire the same people that I'm going to hire to do it. And so we're asking the board to approve a 5-year contract. The question was at the finance committee, what's the life cycle of a CT scanner? Well, it's 7 years. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Mark, we've had some that went way further.
Well, we normally let them go 12, 13, but normally the life cycle is 7 years.
This will be for the scanner here, not the one in Bordeaux.
Correct. Right. The one in Bordeaux is on an 18-month warranty, so it'll be sometime way into early 26, mid-26 before it comes back. And I think we added the service agreement to that contract.
And does this company have a local track record?
Yes, they do. They're local here in town. They have service engineers that service some radiographic equipment in the city and CT scanners, so they are local.
Any other discussion? All right, well, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Been moved and properly second. Are you ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown, you can stay right there and talk to us about Sky Alexander Weaver.
Yes, that is a company that attends to the garden out front by the flagpole in the interior garden on the inside. As you can see, there was no bids for that because I couldn't get any company to come out because the job is so small that nobody really wants to do it. So I found this company that was willing to do it that would come out and service the garden. Prior to that, it would be either myself or Mr. Nairmore jumping up and pulling weeds out of the garden. And so didn't think Dr. Webb would like me utilizing my time. And then Ms. Nelmore saw me jump over the rail one day out of the garden. He thought I was a little old to be doing that. So we are asking that, and the reason it came to the board, it comes to the board is because it's over the threshold that the board has requested to see. And so therefore we are seeking approval for the gardens to be attended to.
All right. I'll entertain a motion for gardens and lawn care.
Moved. Dr. Brown, I am just disappointed that
I
you're
know he's
not
gonna
doing this every single day yourself. But I appreciate Dr. Webb saying that it's not part of your routine responsibilities.
Have to do what you have to.
So moved.
Mr. Lesser.
Can I get a second? Ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed, ayes have it. And Dr. Brown, you have your final contract, Metro Center rental. You're recognized.
Yes, this is for a lease of a space at a Metro Center for office space for providers. It's a 36-month contract, and we're seeking approval from the board on this contract.
Questions or discussion?
What providers are these?
Primary care, and then it will have specialty care as well.
Is it a clinic there?
Yes.
It is a clinic there. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Are these current providers, or have we hired new people for this space?
They are hired providers. We've hired them, yes, sir. New providers, right? That's part of that expansion of the footprint and increase in revenues for the hospital. So that's part of that plan that we talked about in Finance Committee.
So will those providers be seeing patients in that space, or that's just office space?
No, they'll be seeing patients in that space.
Oh, okay.
We did discuss this contract in the Finance Committee, and this is to lease space that is needed to provide more work in, for instance, cardiology, and so there'll be people that'll be moving into this space. We talked about the revenue projections offsetting by more than the rental requirement, so it seems to be a profitable venture and one that also is needed to continue services and expand services.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Been moved and properly second. Ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Dr. Brown. We're now ready for our medical staff reports. Dr. Williams, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We submitted the medical staff bylaws for review to the medical staff in December. We had a vote and the bylaws did not pass. So we currently have the bylaws which right now are not quite in compliance. We had a medical executive committee meeting last night, and the medical executive committee voted to take all of the CMS and Joint Commission language from the draft document that we were working on and to combine that into the existing document while we work through some of the other issues that prevented that document from passing. And pause there for any questions.
What were the issues of why they rejected it?
It's a very good question. I can't answer that. We had 3 town hall meetings, which I would say were mostly centered around a few language challenges, which we modified on the spot. I spent the better part of 6 months meeting with Meharry to work through language in one of the chapters about chiefs and chairs. I thought all of that was resolved, or I wouldn't have brought the document for vote. So I quite honestly don't know what the issue is, and quite frankly, I made that clear last night at the MEC meeting. So what they've asked is for us to at least bring the document into compliance, and then hopefully we can have some more conversations to figure out what the issues are.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Williams.
Should I go on with credentials report?
Yes, please.
You have the credentials report in front of you. We'll start with the medical staff. I won't go over these, but you can see the initial applicants, there are 3. Now, with regard to the reappointments, we were not able to get Dr. Al-Jabouri's file signed in time for the board meeting. So, Janet, if you could make a note that Dr. Al-Jabouri will be moved to the next board meeting. Everybody else was approved at the MEC meeting. 1 person for temporary privileges, and you see the medical staff resignations there. Any questions? We'll go on to the SPP staff. You'll note number 2 should be Paula Williams and not Paul. So Janet, if you could make that correction. Then you can see who the other reappointments. Changes in privileges, 1 person. Temporary privileges, 1 person, and 1 resignation. Let me pause there and see if there are any questions. Okay, it was noted that the existing bylaws currently have optometrists listed as members of the medical staff, as physicians. They're also listed as SPPs, which are non-physician providers, and it was clarified that optometrists are SPPs. For the time being, we will process them in the credentials office as SPPs, but ultimately we will have to change the bylaws and get that corrected once we modify that. Also of note, no one showed up on the Tennessee Department Disciplinary Action Report for January 2024. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. We need to approve this report. Let the record reflect that we are amending the report to cross out the reappointment of Al-Jabouri. And with that amendment, I will entertain a motion. Moved and properly second. Are you ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed, ayes have it. We've adopted the credential report. All right. Ms. Smith and Bruce, you all are recognized for our finance report.
Good evening. Chair and Chair of Finance. Several months ago, when Mr. Manson's last meeting, I told him he went out with a bang because he had a really large profit that last month. You may remember the little tongue-in-cheek. But now that you're chair and Christy's chair of finance, we had the best month we've had in my 7 years here from a profit standpoint. So, congratulations to you two. Take credit when you can.
Yes.
It was really an exceptional financial month for the hospital in November. We did have good patient volumes, but in particular, we had some other revenue, our essential access dollars, and you guys know we got a big bump early this year. From the supplemental pool, it came in at 19. It usually comes in around 13. So we're spreading that money through the year. Also, we got a $3.06 million at the back end of last year. We're carrying that through the first 6 months of this year. I don't know how January is going to look, but we're going to look really good for the first half of this fiscal year. So let me just go through some of the basics. So inpatient admits for the month, 222, a little bit above budget, well above prior month. Our observation admissions to the floors were 180, in line with budget, significantly higher than last month. And our patient days were right on the number for the month. Our ER visits were sort of a little bit down, about 5% versus budget. But even though they were down, they still generated almost exactly what we budgeted from ED admissions at 167. Our clinic visits last month were up about 450 from the prior month, still slightly below budget, but much better than what we saw the prior month. Surgery volume was close to budget on both the inpatient and outpatient. It's been steady, but not growing rapidly yet. Cath lab volume dropped back a little bit last month after a really high September, but still slightly above budget. We had a busy delivery month. It's been a roller coaster really since July 1st in terms of volume in the delivery area. Case mix in the hospital, when you have high deliveries, you tend to have a little bit lower case mix in the hospital. So when you flip to the next page, you'll see on the income statement, our inpatient revenue was actually below budget, even though our days were close. And that's reflective of lower revenue intensity of the patients we have in-house. 43 deliveries out of 200 admissions tends to depress your revenue per patient day a little bit in that month. Our outpatient volume revenue was well above budget. And so in total, we had 25.8 million gross. The budget was 26.2, so a little bit behind there. But the important one, and Dr. Blackledge is here with us for revenue cycle, more important is what did we harvest from the 25.7. We actually beat our number by a little bit, 5,065,000, 200,000 better than the budget for the month, which is great. So we had a decent month even on our own, what we generated ourselves. But where we really stood out, and you've seen it last month as well, we had a $2.7 million essential access revenue line for the month, and we had $2 million of essential access dollars for the month of October. So all in, if you look at net revenue, we're $4 million ahead of the budget for the month on net revenue. And then our expenses were about $280,000 above. Most of that was in a little bit above on our contract labor line, but there's a lot of pieces to that to talk about. Still, net, if you drop down to the operating margin line, we made almost $3 million in the month. The budget was we were supposed to lose $770,000. So, really exceptional quarter for the hospital. November's not quite this strong, but I've already seen that, and it's still positive, not negative. So it's a really good start for the first 4 months of this hospital. I did tell the finance committee people, I know they're numbers people, it's great that we're making cash here, but the downside of it, which you don't see unless you go to the balance sheet, is we had to spend $4+ million of our own operating funds for capital, because we still don't yet have access to the capital that was allocated to the hospital last year. So good and bad, I'm burning our operating cash to cover the capital needs just because we don't have access to it yet. We've been told we will as soon as the city audit for 2023 confirms the subsidy, confirms the surplus for Metro, because that's where our capital, we were part of that $1 billion surplus. That's why the hospital got such a large piece for capital. For reference, in 2023, we got $0 of capital. So we're happy to get the 7.3. We just don't have access to it yet. So when we do, we'll be able to reimburse for that $4 million, and it'll make our operating cash funds a lot healthier. So just a little bit of an editorial there. A really good month, Mr. Chair and Finance Chair.
Where does the money from Metro come into this balance sheet?
Well, if you see city supplement, Dr. Miller, right above that 14.6 million, on the left, you see 4.818392. Yeah, I'm sorry, the second page, the income statement, the busy one. There's a 4.818392. Now, I don't want to do an accounting class, but we don't always get 4.8, but because I expect to get it throughout the course of the year, we actually average that. Even if they gave me 4 million or 5 million, you're still going to see that, and by the end of the year, that income line will be whatever the city ultimately provides to us. So that's accounting. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, Bruce. Really strong month. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
all around.
So
Thank
moved.
you.
Second.
Ready for the question? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you again, Bruce. All right, we'll now have our CEO's report. Dr. Webb, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me start by announcing that we have extended an offer to a Chief Development Officer who will be responsible also for heading up the operations of the foundation. We should be closing that out in the next week or so, and we'll have that announcement for you at the next meeting. We received $20,000 for prostate cancer screening capacity building grant from the American Cancer Society. And we also received a grant from Nashville Wine Auction in the amount of $100,000 for cancer care videos. I believe Dr. Brown announced the ribbon cutting for the Bordeaux facility, which is scheduled for February 15th. And I believe there are digital invitations that are being sent out on that. We are among the select 3 hospitals in the state that were chosen to implement the second phase of the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services and the Tennessee Hospital Association Medication Assignment Treatment Emergency Department Induction Project, which is essentially to address the epidemic in the state, opioids and substance abuse. Dr. Bullock and the emergency department team will be working with executing that grant. I want to announce that our own Ms. Kaylin Harris, in regards to the American Heart Association Women of Impact campaign kickoff, will be heading up that initiative, and Ms. Harris is Manager of Marketing and Communications. As of 2024, Women of Impact, she is the nominee. Over 9 weeks, she will be working with other nominees to raise life-saving funds for the American Heart Association, so we ask that you all please render your support to Ms. Harris. And that is Ms. Harris right there. All right. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions.
Dr. Webb, great story. Where is she? In at least one of the local papers about the opioid treatment initiative that you brought up.
Yeah.
I didn't understand half the story, but I thought it was great that it was a positive story about Nashville General. Thank you, Kathy.
That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Doctor.
Would it be possible to let the board know before the next board meeting how the meeting with the mayor goes next week?
Yes, we can do that.
That'd be great.
Yep. That's actually all I had on my agenda. That we're looking forward to that conversation. And again, the mayor is very supportive of the hospital, and the conversations that we've already had has indicated a willingness to really support the hospital moving forward. So we're looking forward to that conversation. We'll be happy to share some highlights from that in an email after that meeting takes place. All right, our next regular meeting will be Thursday, February 29th at 4 p.m. Make sure you have that on your calendars. If nothing else needs our attention, I entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, by sign of aye. All opposed, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.